Here's a question. Can grass mods make Skyrim on Xbox look better without tanking your frame rate? I tested some of the most popular ones, compared them to vanilla, and measured the performance hit on both Series X and Series S. Hi, I'm RamNexus. I make videos looking at the technical aspects of some of my favourite console games. This is a follow-up to my top 10 tree mods video. But here's what I'm working with. Here's the catch. I've been playing Skyrim for years since it came out, and I've never once used a grass mod. So instead of doing all the research and then making the video, I thought I'd make the video as I learned about each mod. In fact, I'm probably going to turn this into a series of videos. If grass mods are anything like tree mods, I'm expecting a whole bunch of different types, different styles, and plenty of little quirks that I've got to work out. First off, I used an AI tool to help me search out a list of Xbox grass mods just to see which were the most popular ones. And of course, I said Xbox, but it gave me a bunch of PC-only mods in its result. So yeah, thanks Google Gemini, never change, buddy. But there were some solid Xbox suggestions in there too. The focus of this video is grass density, mainly because that's the first interesting feature that I came across when going through the mods. Today we'll start with literally the first mod that was on the list, DaVinci. What I like about this mod is that there are 3 density versions available: less dense, normal density, and dense density. Less density leaves big patches and bare earth around Morthal. In Falkreath's forest, even the less version has good thick coverage. All versions do a good job of keeping grass off the roads most of the time. In the dense version of DaVinci, grass reaches right up to the water's edge. The dense version also fills in areas that are normally clear, like this work area at the mill. I think someone should make a lawnmower mod. I noticed the grass in the volcanic tundra is quite different. A good place to compare grass coverage is from the top of the Western Watchtower, which is where you fight your first dragon. For the performance test, I did a simple straight run in Whiterun's tundra. The only other mods loaded were the unofficial patch and a clear weather mod. Baseline vanilla Skyrim rates were 60 for the Series X and 55 for the Series S. So what's the performance impact of DaVinci? Well, the less version holds at 60 on the Series X. The normal version varies from 55 when standing down to 42, and the dense version drops hard down to 30 frames a second. As for the Series S, the less version stays at vanilla levels. The normal version runs between 45 and down to 37, and the dense version gets down to 30. So what's my verdict? What do I think? Well, if you want lush landscapes without tanking performance, then stick to the less grass version, so long as you're happy with the patchy look of the grass coverage. The normal version is playable. It has better ground coverage, but it's noticeably choppy even on the Series X. And the dense version, well, despite the generous helping of grass everywhere, frame rate it's just too low to be playable for me. I really like that idea of one mod having multiple density options to choose from. So I looked for others with the same, and I found a couple. This one is voluptuous grasses. That's maybe an odd naming choice for a grass. Again, there are 3 density versions. Here they're called low, medium, and high density. With low and medium density versions, there's less grass on the road, but the road can get completely covered in grass with the high density option. As you can see here, I found quite a striking transition from the forest grass to the snow grass. That's a bold choice. The grass in the volcanic tundra is quite different to vanilla Skyrim's, and I'm not too sure I'm a fan of it. Another thing to note is that all versions of the mod cover the game's cleared areas with grass. From the Western Watchtower, we can see how the grass is distributed. So how was performance on the Series X? Low density version was 52, medium density was 39, and high density went down to 30 FPS. On the Series S, low density was also 52 and medium was 38, so about the same. High density went down to 25, so that's super low. So what's my verdict? The low density version of voluptuous grasses is not as patchy as DaVinci, but it has a lower frame rate. Voluptuous medium density looks good overall, but average frame rate is low compared to DaVinci medium. I did notice the voluptuous high density version also made changes to the look of the grass compared to medium, so it didn't just change density, but the high version also cut the console's frame rate in half, so I'm going to stay away from that. The other grass mod I noticed with multiple density options was Grass and Ground Overhaul. This mod is exactly what it sounds like, a complete update to the grass and underlying ground textures throughout Skyrim. What interested me about this mod is that there are 4 variants. There are dense and performance editions, and each of those has a 1K and 2K texture resolution version. So we're looking at 2 density options and 2 texture resolution options. It's a big chunky boy though, coming in at 350 to 475 megabytes, depending on which version you choose. As for visuals, performance version have less grass and the dense version have more grass. That makes sense. I was expecting the 1K and 2K variants to look the same, but just have different texture resolutions. But sometimes I found big differences in grass density and positioning just between the 1K and 2K versions. And sometimes, just to mess with my head, I guess, all 4 variants look different from each other on the screenshots, which is, it's not bad, I guess, it's just a bit confusing. I will say the snowgrass is an excellent alternative to the vanilla grass, but you need to choose the 2K version of the mod, either of them, to get this good quality grass. But the sand-coloured landscape textures are perhaps too big a change for me, and they're very uniform. I found excessive grass growing on some rows, but the blending of grass between the regions was very good. So what about performance? Texture resolution didn't impact frame rate at all. It seems the 1K, 2K size is not an issue on the Xbox Series consoles. This is probably a throwback to Xbox One days. As for grass density on the Series X, the dense grass version sat at 56 and the performance version just stuck to 60. So verdict, there's some great looking grass in this mod, but it's not consistent. But since there's very little impact on frame rate, I recommend trying out either of the 2K versions if you have a Series console. Here's a mod that I really like the look of, Natural Grasses. It seemed to be made for Xbox. I couldn't find a PC version of it. Some of the screenshots show thicker grass coverage and the grass has nice deep colour to it. Quite like that. Grass coverage is good. It provides more coverage than vanilla version of the game, and it can grow up to the road's edge, but it doesn't cover the road. But I noticed the grass grows to the edge of the water. I really like the mix of colours and grasses here in Eastmarch, and again you can see it keeps the road clear. But again, Natural Grasses does put grass into cleared spaces, like outside the Orc stronghold, which I can't imagine the Orcs are too happy about. But here's the most interesting thing I found. The grass draw distance is a lot further away from the camera than all the other mods I've looked at so far. That difference is impressive. Draw distance is a lot further out than vanilla Skyrim. But this long draw distance may also explain why this mod has such a big impact on frame rate. Frame rate was down to 30 FPS on the Series S. So that's too low for me, which is a shame because I really like the look of that grass mod. So I was then wondering, is there any way I can improve the frame rate in Natural Grasses? Well, I found a utility mod called Less Grass that's designed to reduce grass density for any grass mod. Less Grass comes in a few versions depending on how much grass you want to remove. Skyrim's default grass density value is 20, but Less Grass lets you set it to 40, 60, 80, 100, or 120. It's important to know that the higher the value, the less grass there is. So let's see what effect this Less Grass mod has on Natural Grasses. I'll try out Less Grass 40 and 80. Grass still grows to the waterline with 40 and 80. Less Grass 40 reduces the Natural Grasses mod density to about the same as the vanilla grass, I reckon. And the grass recedes further from the road with Less Grass 40, and even further than that with Less Grass 80. With Less Grass 80, I describe the grass cover as patchy. I'd even say there's more ground exposed than there is grass. Frame rate with just Natural Grasses, as you remember, was 30 on the Series S. Adding Less Grass 40 raised that to about 32 frames a second, which is still low. However, Less Grass 80 moved frame rate all the way up to 60, which is ideal, but the compromise is that the grass is very patchy. Final verdict, the Less Grass utility mod works really well. I recommend it. The version you use will depend on the mod that you've paired it with. For natural grasses, I'm going to try Less Grass 60. I think that would be the best balance. Okay, but then I was thinking, what if I wanted to increase the density of a grass mod? Well, there is a mod for that. It's called Dense Grass that comes in a full and a light version. In theory, it adds density to any grass. But in practice, well, it seems to only work with vanilla Skyrim grass. I assume the mod creator intended to make it compatible with all grass mods, but unfortunately, the mod acts like a master file, always forcing itself to the top of your load order, which means my grass mod always overrides it. Which is a shame, as I think the mod's a really good idea. As for visuals, here's what dense grass looks like with vanilla Skyrim. It increased the amount of vanilla grass generated, so it did its job, and it looks good. It's not over the top. So not only did it increase the density of grass, but it kept the workspaces clear as well. From the Western Watchtower, we can see the increase in density the mod provides, which is noticeable, but not over the top. As for performance, it did have a performance hit, but it was only about 4 or 5 frames per second on the Series Edge, which I gotta say is less than I was expecting. So since the frame rate impact was minimal, I didn't bother even trying the low version of the mod. So if for whatever reason you're watching this video but not using a grass mod, give this dense grass add-on a try. It works and makes a noticeable difference to vanilla grass. So that was a look at grass density. Next time I'll look at other features like LODs, grass removal mods, and landscape textures. Thanks for watching. Let me know of your favorite grass or utility mods in the comments. There's probably some that I've not heard of yet and want to have a look at. Check out my top 10 tree mods video next, or browse my Elder Scrolls playlist for more Skyrim and Oblivion content. Alright, okay, cheers. Thanks for watching. Ramnexus out.